During the previous meeting, I have uploaded our discussion on the two phases of the intelligence cycle, okay? The planning stage and the collection stage. But at present, we will try to finish the three remaining phases, okay? The processing, the production, and the dissemination. Okay. In the processing stage, you might come across an intelligence cycle wherein it is not found, okay? It is not present. Or it's either a caption is only processing, however, production is not present. Now, because there are other intelligence cycle which is only composed of the four, okay? Planning, collection, processing, and dissemination. So, processing covers already the production stage. In the same sense, baka meron din kayong ma-encounter na the third phase is only on production. So, the production covers this processing phase. Okay? Bakit? The processing phase actually is a very short activity. Okay? It is very short activity. The only thing that is important in processing is we are only trying to convert, okay? We are trying to convert this data into a usable form. Usable form. Okay? So, ulitin natin. We are trying to convert this data into a usable form. Who will use it? The next question is who will use it? It will be used by the analyst. Okay? So, it is the analyst who will use this data. Now, dito, sa processing stage na ito, wherein the data are converted into a usable form, it involves several activities. However, it is very brief. Okay? Such as, let us try to take a look. We have decryption. If we have decrypted, or if we have encrypted, I should say, messages, then we have to decrypt it. How can an analyst read a decrypted data? One example are the data during the World War II, wherein some of the data that were collected during the time of the Nazi Germany, it was only later na-open. Okay? It was only later na na-open. Kasi hindi nila alam buksan yung yung kinalalagyan ng data na yan. So, daming mga scientists, mathematicians ang naghanap ng code or ng decryption ng intelligence or ng information na yon. However, it took them so many years. Okay? Centuries pa nga. Before they were able to decrypt it. Another example is language translation. So in language translation, we are trying to translate this data into a language that the analyst can understand. So yun, yung language translation. Okay? And now let us say the data was written in a Germanic language, or it was written in an Arabic language, or it was written in a Russian language na kung saan yung analyst hindi niya naiintindihan, then it would have to be translated. Okay? It would have to be translated into a wordings that the analyst can understand. Parang bigyan ka baga ng sulat. Ikaw, Kapampangan ang alam mo, tapos bigyan ka baga ng sulat na nakasulat sa salita ng mga Igorot, salita ng mga Bisaya, salita ng mga maranaw, ay imposible na maintindihan mo na ikaw lang. Okay? So, the tendency is you cannot use that data not unless you can read and understand what is being said doon sa data na yon or sa information na yon. Okay? So, yon. So, dito, madami pa. Okay? Madami pang iba't ibang activity ang nangyayari dito. Let us say in photographs. Now, there are times or during the time when the digital camera was not yet born, we are using camera with a film. Now, processing includes the developing of this film and cataloging it also. Cataloging in the sense that we will be arranging them chronologically, or yes, in a manner that it will be easily understood. Okay? Or it will be easily, what we call this, located. So, yan. Okay? Now, if we have already processed this data, then that is the time we will submit it for production. Okay? So, in the production stage, this is now the time that this raw data will now become an intelligence product. Okay? Dito sa production stage, it is here where this raw data will now become intelligence, or information will now be transformed in intelligence, or into, I should say, into intelligence. Now, dito, sa production stage na ito, there is a step that are being undertaken here. Okay? So, let's try to take a look. Okay? In the production stage or production phase, the gathered data and processed information will go through a rigorous evaluation and analysis. Okay? So, what are we going to evaluate here? We are going to evaluate the data itself, the source of our data, and the validity of our data. Okay? Now, tignan natin. Okay? Without analysis, raw data stands on its own. Ang bigas, kung hindi mo yan isasaing, kung hindi mo yan iproproseso, iluluto, kailanman yan ay bigas pa rin. Okay? Iniwan mo dyan sa kaldero, nilagay mo nga sa kaldero. Okay? Pero, hindi mo sinindihan ang apoy. Namalengke ka, pag uwi mo, bigas pa rin yan. Sir, nilagyan ko naman ng tubig. Okay, tama, nilagyan mo ng tubig. Di mo naman sinindihan. Paglabas mo, pag uwi mo, bigas pa rin yan, nababad lang sa tubig. Okay? So, yon. Dito, sa production stage, dito na natin lulutuin yung bigas para maging kanin. The raw information will now be processed and it will now become an intelligence product dito sa production stage, especially in the analysis stage or analysis phase of the production. Kaya nga sinasabi, okay, that analysis is the heart of the intelligence process. Ulitin ko, analysis is the heart of the intelligence process. Ulitin natin pangatlo. Analysis is the heart of intelligence process. Okay? So, dagdagan pa natin.
Analysis is the heart of the intelligence process. Okay?
So yun, analysis is the heart of the intelligence process.
So, without analysis, data will always remain as information. Without any added value, it might be used improperly, or as we have it said there, it might be misused. Okay? Next. In the production, as I have said kanina, there are certain phases or stages. It starts with evaluation, wherein kasasabi ko din lang kanina, we will try to evaluate the information itself, the source of information, and the validity of information. Okay. Then, we will try to interpret it, and we will try to integrate it, and we will try to analyze it to come up with a new meaning. Okay, parang ganito yan. Okay? In integration, okay, in integration, bale, meron kang kape, meron kang asukal, meron kang gatas. Magkakahiwalay yan. Now, lasahan mo yung kape, mapait. Okay? Lasahan mo ng asukal, matamis. Lasahan mo yung gatas, medyo masarap-sarap, nanamis-namis. Okay? Now, kung hindi natin sila sasama-samahin, ang meaning ng isa ay magkakaiba. Okay? Iba yung matamis, iba yung mapait, iba yung masarap na medyo manamis-namis. Now, in integration, we will combine these three. Kape, gatas, asukal. Combine natin. Then, we will try to taste kung ano yung lasa. So, iba ang naproproduce niya. Okay? So, dito sa integration, we will now combine old intelligence products from new intelligence products to form a new product. Okay? Parang yung gatas, yung asukal at yung kape, magkakaibang produkto yan. Okay? Ngayon, pinag-combine natin sila. Kinombine natin yung kape at asukal at gatas, pinag-isa natin para maging isang produkto ulit. So, yan yung integration. Now, after now we have combined this or integrated this, then we will now try to analyze ano na ang naging resulta, ano na ang ibig sabihin. Okay? Parang sa gatas, kape, asukal, ang next na tanong, ano kaya ang lasa? Okay? So, there is now a new meaning. Okay? So, yun yung sa production stage. Okay? Now, let's talk about evaluation. Okay. In the evaluation, as we have said kanina, okay, we are trying to determine the pertinence, the reliability, and accuracy. Okay. Pertinence refers to the significance of the data or the information in relation to the mission or in relation to the operation. Okay? So, magagamit nga ba itong information na ito dito sa isang mission na ito or hindi? Okay? Kung hindi, isang tabi mo. Pero kung magagamit, gamitin mo. Now, isang tabi. I will use the term isang tabi kasi once data comes into your hand, hindi mo yan tinatapon. Sinasantabi mo yan kung hindi mo magagamit for future use. Okay? For future use. So, pertinence refers to the significance of the information relative to the mission or relative to the operation. Whereas if we talk about reliability of the source, we are talking here about Okay? How reliable is the source? Now, if we talk about the source, we are talking here about the person who gathered the data and provided it to you, or we are talking about the agency who provided it to you. Okay. So, gaano nga ba sila ka-reliable? Okay? We will also try to determine that during the evaluation. Next, accuracy. If we talk about the accuracy, we are talking about the data itself. Okay? The accuracy of the information. Totoo kaya ito? Walang dagdag, walang bawas? Yun yung tanong dyan. Accurate kaya ito? Hindi kaya ito dinagdagan? Hindi kaya ito binawasan? Now, we will try to take a look at those. Okay? So first, let us try to take a look into some of the principles that needs to be considered during the evaluation. There are only 3 principles here. So first, the use of professionalism when it comes to evaluation. So the evaluator who is doing the evaluation should evaluate the information without bias. Okay? He should not be influenced by any personal interest. Okay? But rather, he should evaluate this data professionally. Professionally in the sense na, yun nga, isang tabi mo yung mga personal feelings, isang tabi mo yung galit mo sa pinanggalingan ng data na yan, isang tabi mo yung galit mo dyan sa nag-uutos sa'yo, isang tabi mo yung pagmamahal mo dyan sa boss mo na nag-uutos sa'yo, isang tabi mo yung relasyon mo doon sa nagbigay ng impormasyon. Kung yung boyfriend mo, yung asawa mong nagbigay, kalimutan mo muna na sila yung asawa mo, but rather, you do it professionally. Okay? You should not be influenced by any personal feelings. Next, in evaluating the source and the information, you should have to do it separately. Hindi porket ang kaibigan mo ang nagbigay, reliable na kaagad lahat ang mga sinasabi niya. Okay? So, sabihin natin isa akong nagbibigay ng impormasyon. Dispalinghago lahat ng mga nakaraan ang aking binibigay na impormasyon. Does it necessarily mean na yung ibibigay ko na naman na impormasyon ay dispalinghago pa rin? No. Okay? No. So, there is a separate evaluation of the person and of the information. Okay? And next, in evaluating, we must not go very far. So, if if this is now the source and this is the data, the evaluation result should be as close as possible. So, kung ako, palaging ang reliability ko is very poor or bagsak. Bagsak din ba kaagad ang aking information? No. Okay? Mangyaring totoo yan. Kahit totoo yan, kahit walang labis, walang kulang. Pero hindi mo po pwedeng sabihin na very reliable na kaagad yon. Kasi ako na pinanggalingan, medyo may pagdududa. So, until such time that there is another source that would support your information, doon po pwedeng mapalitan ang evaluation noon. Okay? So, let's try to take a look. Ito yung flow ng ating evaluation process. First, let us determine the source characteristics. Sino nga ba ang nagbibigay ng impormasyon? Sino nga ba ang pinanggalingan ng impormasyon na ito? Okay? Now, the sources of information are coded from T to Z. Okay? T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Okay? So these letters represents the source. Next, after we have determined the source characteristics, we will now try to determine how reliable is this source. And now, after we have determined the reliability, we now try to take a look. What is the relationship between the information and the source? Yung source kaya at yung information ay mahahanapan sa isang lugar. Let us say, nagtatrabaho ako sa opisina ni Presidente Rodrigo Duterte. Meron akong personal access sa information. Okay? So, yan yung relationship, yung na-access ko. Nahahanapan kami sa isang lugar. Or, is there a third person? Meron pa bang ibang tao na pinagkukuhanan ng informasyon nito? So, if let us say, I am the source, ako yung nagbigay sa'yo. Meron pa bang tao na nagbibigay sa akin at pinapasa ko lang sa inyo? So, yan yung relationship na sinasabi natin dito. Okay? Because this is important. Okay? The relationship of the source to the information is important because we are trying to establish how does the source gets access to the information that we need. Okay? Paano niya nakukuha yung impormasyon na kinakailangan. Then, lastly, we will now try to validate the information. We will try to take a look into its validity. Okay? So, let's try to take a look into the sources of information. So, we have here now, okay? So, we have the T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So, if the source is from the direct or from the unit commander who personally observed it or who has a personal observation about it, then the source is a T. Okay? Now, if it comes from a penetration agent or a resident agent, we are talking here, by the way, if we are talking about penetration agent and resident agent, we are talking here about intelligence operatives. Okay? Intelligence personnel who are assigned, in the collection of this information. So if it comes from these penetration agents or resident agents, then the source is T. We do not put there, it came from a deep penetration agent or from a resident agent. Di natin yan sasabihin. Automatically, lagay mo lang dyan, U. The analyst knows immediately na yung U na yan is a report or a data that comes from a penetration agent or a resident agent. In the same sense, if the information involves now a member of the PNP or AFP who had been involved in an operation or encounter, then the source is V. Hindi mo rin ulit yan sasabihin na the source or the source of information is from an AFP personnel who has been engaged in an armed encounter. Or you do not also say that the source of information is from a police who, what we call this now, were involved in the operation. Okay? You just write there V. The same, W is the interrogation of a captured enemy, agent, or foreigner. X is an observation by a government or a civilian employee. Y is an observation by a member of the populace, and Z the data or information came from a document. Okay? So, ito yung mga pinanggagalingan ng information, yung data, raw data. So, lahat ng mga ito, sila yung nagbibigay ng raw data. Okay? Na finorward sa processing at yung processing finorward sa production. Okay? Sila yan. Next. Balikan natin ulit yung sila itong source characteristic natin na ito. Pagkatapos natin na identify kung sino yung pinanggalingan ng source, then we will now try to determine the reliability of the source. Now, the reliability, okay, is coded by letters A to F. Now, actually, this depends. Kasi yung iba, they are only using a 4 level of evaluation. A, B, C, D lang. Pero usually, dito sa atin, ang ginagamit is hanggang F. Okay? So, A is completely reliable. B, usually reliable. C is fairly reliable. D is not usually reliable. And E is unreliable. And we have the F, which is the reliability cannot be determined or cannot be judged. Now, what are the criteria before nasasabihin mo na, oo, kapanipaniwala talaga yung nagbigay sa akin ng information na yan? Porque ba yung nagsabi sa iyo ay yung hepe ng pulis, maniniwala ka na kaagad, 100% sure? No. We must have to try to take a look on the previous information that he has reported. Okay? So, we can say that the source is completely reliable if there is a history of complete reliability. Ano nga ba itong history of complete reliability na ito? Nung mga nakaraang nagbibigay siya ng information, lahat ng mga binigay niya, lahat ha, ulitin natin, lahat, all. Okay? Ulitin natin, yan.
All.
All. Okay? So, yun. All. Okay.
So,
Yung point dito, wala ni isang information na nagmintis. Okay? Wala ni isang information na nagmintis. Sa 5 sinabi niya, 5 ang totoo. Ganon. Now, there is no doubt regarding the authenticity, trustworthiness, integrity, and competence of the source. So, wala kaduda-duda na merong kakayahan, walang kaduda-duda na dapat pagkatiwalaan ang pinanggalingan ng information. And that is A. Okay? Now, B, if there is a history of general reliability. So, there is at least 1 mistake. So, out of 5, there are 4 na tama, isa ang naging mali. Okay? So, sa 5 sinabi niya, 4 ang tama, isa yung mali, we cannot give him a completely reliable evaluation, but we can give him an evaluation of usually reliable. Okay? So, there is only a general reliability in the sense na meron na siyang pagkakamali na isang beses. Kaya nga nandyan 1 count. Okay? So, some doubt regarding the authenticity, the trustworthiness, or integrity, or competence of the source.
Siyempre, medyo pinagdudahan mo na kaagad ng kaunti kasi baka naman maulit na hindi na naman totoo ang kanyang ni-report. So, ganun yon. Now, C, we have it evaluated as C if, okay, there is a history of periodic reliability. So, out of 5, there are 3 that is correct and there are 2 that is not correct. Meaning to say, mas madami pa naman yung tama kaysa sa mali. However, okay, there are at least 2 or more counts. So that depends, okay? Kung let us say yung information niya is 20 yung information na naibigay niya, out of 20 information previously, sabihin natin 14 ang naging tama at 6 ang naging mali. We can still consider him as fairly reliable. Kasi mas madami pa yung tama na nasasabi niya. Okay? Or nare-report niya. Okay? So, there is a history of periodic reliability. The next, usually not reliable, which is coded as D. So, if you are given a code of D or your evaluation is D, then ibig sabihin, hindi ka reliable, hindi ka maaasahan. Is it totally na hindi ka maaasahan? No. Okay? Because dito, in usually not reliable na ito, baligtarin lang natin yung fairly. Okay? So, out of 5, 3 yung di tama, 2 ang tama. Okay? So, definite doubt regarding the authenticity and trustworthiness or integrity or the competence of this source. Na kung saan, balik tayo sa mas madami, doon sa 20 na previous na information na nabibigay niya, okay? Siyam, sabihin natin ang tumama, 11 ang mali. O kaya ay mas madami pa ang mali. Okay? So, doon, kapag mas madami ang mali na mga previous information or previous reports niya, then we can evaluate the source as usually not reliable. Okay. Next, we have this unreliable. Ito talagang hindi na mapagkakatiwalaan talaga ito. Okay? So, there is a history of unreliability na kung saan madami ang kanyang sinabi, wala namang tumatama, wala namang tumutugma. Okay? So, there is a certainty about the lack of authenticity, the lack of trustworthiness, the lack of integrity, and the lack of competence on the part of the source. So, wala siyang kakayahan, hindi siya pwedeng mapagkatiwalaan. Okay? And lastly, we have F. F, the reliability of the source cannot be judged. Hindi natin alam kung ito nga ba ay mapagkakatiwalaan or hindi natin alam kung saan sa A to E ang kanyang evaluation. Usually, this comes if the source is a first time. Okay? First time to provide information. Kasi hindi mo kaagad yan ma-evaluate kung minsan lang yan nagsabi. Okay? So that is the reliability of the source. Okay. So, to evaluate the source properly, we need to ask ourselves 2 important questions. Now, we are talking here now about the relationship of information and the source. Where did the source or the agency get this information? And why did they provide me this information? But most specifically, if we are talking about the relationship of the source and the information, we are talking there of the first question. Okay? Where did this source or agency get the information? Do they have a direct access to the source? Or is there a third person who is providing a source from them? Okay? Meron ba silang direktang access doon sa information na yan? Or meron lang nagbibigay sa kanila ng impormasyon na ibang tao? So, yun yung source relationship with the information. Okay, next. Let's try now to evaluate the validity of information. So, it is coded from 1 to 6. Okay. 1 is confirmed, 2 is probably true, 3 is possibly true, 4 is doubtfully true, 5 is improbable, and 6 is that probability cannot be judged. Okay? So, we can say that it is confirmed, or we can give an evaluation of 1 if, okay, if the information provided by the source is confirmed by another independent source. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo kanina, we must have to separate. Okay? We must have to separate the evaluation of the source from the information. Okay? So, if let us say, ako, nagbibigay ako ng impormasyon, may mga mali na previously na naibigay ko. Does it necessarily mean na mali pa rin yung impormasyon na nabigay ko? No. Tapos yung evaluation na yon, let us say, nung in-evaluate ninyo, nung binigay ko na yon, dahil ang evaluation ko is, sabihin natin, fairly reliable, 3. Tapos binigyan ninyo ng evaluation naman yung what we call this, yung information ng mababa, okay lang yon. Okay? Kasi if there are other agencies or sources that can prove na totoo yung binigay ko, then the evaluation will be changed. So ito na. If my source or if the information that I have provided you is confirmed by an independent source. Okay? Sabihin natin, ako, pulis ako. Nagbigay ako ng information. And it was confirmed by, let us say, the army. An army is an independent source. So, we can give it an evaluation of 1. Okay? But if, let us say, my information was confirmed by another police officer, kasama ko pa sa trabaho, then, there is a possibility na totoo lang ang sinasabi ko, then, we can give it an evaluation of 2. Okay? Now, if my information is not confirmed by any other source, however, it is logical, then we can give an evaluation of 3. Okay? And we can give an evaluation of 4 if, okay, ito, it is not confirmed, it is not illogical, however, okay, it is not believed at the time of receipt of possible or although possible. Ibig sabihin, nung binigay ko yon, yung information, walang makakapagsabi na totoo yan or hindi totoo yan. Pero iyan, naaayon yan sa mga nangyayari. So, it is logical. Pero nung tinanggap, hindi nila pinapaniwalaan nung una, nung tanggapin. Okay? But may posibilidad. Okay, I will cite to you a very good example kasi this happened actually. Okay, at first I actually the one who provided the data. Okay? So, I was assigned that time at the intelligence division of the PNP nung tayo pa si James Bond. Okay, so a source provided that here is the data. Yung tao na hinahanap ninyo, yung commander na hinahanap ninyo, ay hindi namatay. Kasi there was an armed encounter between the military and the what we call this, and the NPA, wherein it was reported that the commander was killed in action. Next, all reports, okay, report ng military, report ng mga kasamang PNP, ang sinasabi, including the NICA, yung report ng NICA pala, sinabi din, namatay. Pero andyan ako, bagitong-bagito sa field ng ano na yan, ang report ko, hindi namatay. Ako lang ang nagsabi na hindi namatay. Dalawa actually kami. Pero magkasama kami doon na nag-report na hindi namatay. So ayaw nilang paniwalaan. Kasi unang-una, sabi namin, hindi yan namatay. Pero hindi pinaniwalaan ng opisina namin. For what reason? Kasi, una, report ng mga kasamahan naming pulis na doon naka-deploy, yung naka-istasyon, naka-assign sa istasyon doon, ang report nila namatay. Merong situational report na yon. Next, yung mga kasamahang military din na-involved sa encounter, ang report din nila namatay. Next, ang ISAP, okay, yung Intelligence of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, ang naging report din, namatay. Pero dalawa kami, ang report namin, hindi namatay. So, hindi nila pinaniwalaan yung report namin. Bakit? Kasi lahat nag-report namatay na. But, it is logical. It is possible. Bakit namin sinasabi na hindi namatay at bakit possible na buhay pa? Unang-una, hindi nila mahanapan ang bangkay. Okay? Hindi nila mahanapan yung bangkay. Pangalawa, kung bakit namin sinasabi na hindi rin namatay, kasi yung kasama kong nag-report, yung bayaw niya, asawa mismo ng tita ng commander. So, ginamit namin yung tita. Kontakin mo, alamin mo kung nabuhay. So, nag-usap sila in front of us through telephone. So, that is the reason na nag-report kami ng hindi namatay. Until such time that, until such time na sumulpot ulit yung tao. Panibagong harassment na naman. Nandyan, nag-ambush na naman. Daming uniforme na naman ng sundalo ang nasira. So, doon nila pinaniwalaan, ay, totoo pala yung report ng mga bagitong ito. Okay, so, at first, hindi nila pinapaniwalaan. Okay? Actually, I have reported two reports na ganyan. At first, hindi nila pinapaniwalaan. But until such time that they have proven it na totoo. Okay? So, doubtfully true. Kasi nga, wala nga makakapag-confirm. Lalong-lalo itong isa. Kasi, meron yung nasabi sa akin ng alaga nating daga. Okay? Sabi niya, sa ganitong petsa, merong mangyayaring insidente dito sa lugar. So, wala namang harassment, walang parang party-party lang. Kaso, yan yung outtaking ng mga bagong graduate ng larangang gerilya. So, yun ang report niya sa akin. Diba? So, siyempre, ginawan ko din yan ng report. Intelligence report. Sinabmit ko sa opisina. Okay. Nung validate nila, ayaw nilang maniwala kasi walang makakapag-confirm. Until such time, sumingaw yung pangyayari na yung sinasabing mga foreign nationals kasama ang mga rebelde na lumilibot sa bundok. So doon, naniwala na naman sila, saan mo ginukuha yung information mo? Yun ang tanong nila sa akin. But I said, well, hindi na importante kung sino yung nagbibigay. Ang importante, kung paniwalaan ninyo or hindi. Okay? So, that's it. Okay? It was not confirmed, it was not illogical, but it is possible. So, doubtfully true. Now, improbable will be given as an evaluation if all the information provided is contrary to what is going on. Meron kang previous intelligence report, tapos bigla meron ito lumalabas, kumukontra doon sa sinasabi mo. Tapos tong intelligence report na ito, illogical naman. Parang imposible na. Okay? Imposible na mangyayari. And there are other sources also that can contradict. Meaning to say, merong makakapagpatunay na yung information na yan ay hindi totoo. So, yan ang improbable. Okay? And next, we have the 6 cannot be judged. Hindi natin alam kung yan ay reliable or yan ay totoo or yan ay hindi. Okay? So yan. Yan, ang pinag-usapan pa lang natin dyan is evaluation. Okay? Evaluation of the source or determination of our source characteristic. Then we have also determined the reliability of our source, the relationship of our source from that of the information, and the validity of information. Okay? So, dito sa validity, we are actually conducting here a validation. We are conducting here about how true is this information. Okay? Next, in the analysis stage, the data, is integrated. Okay? So, data integration is the first phase of the analytical process. Now, gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, we combine this information from the different sources in preparation for the formulation of inferences. Wherein, yung kape, asukal, gatas, we try to merge them into one to come up with a new meaning or for a formulation of a new inference. So, ganon. Yung kape, gatas, asukal, pinag-isa natin, pinagtipon natin para maging isa at para create tayo ng panibagong produkto. Okay? So, various techniques may be used to display this information. Okay, the most common being used is the charting. But we will not talk about these techniques in the analysis stage because that is so technical. Baka lalo kayong mahilo sa topic natin. Okay? Because dyan, we will be using their link diagram, mapping, and there are so many techniques. Ang pinaka-basic, yung charting na yan. Ginagawan lang yan ng chart. Okay. So the next step in the analytical process is now interpretation. Okay? So if we have combined this data together to form a new product, then we will now try to analyze, okay, or we will now try to interpret what is the true meaning or what is the meaning. Okay, we will now try to interpret what is the meaning of the new product. So it requires going beyond the facts. It requires dito sa interpretation na ito, it requires that we should read between the lines. Okay? So, the disciplined approach to analysis requires the maximum amount of information to be assessed at the time to determine its relevance. Excluding information at the beginning of the process can easily lead to the significance of a vital piece of information being overlooked. This can lead to a wrong analysis, which can ultimately jeopardize the inquiry. So, going back, in the interpretation stage or in the interpretation phase of our analysis, okay, we will now try to determine now the true meaning of the new data. So, nung pinag-combine natin, I will always use yung kape, gatas, at asukal as our example dito para madali nating intindihin. Kung pinag-combine natin yung asukal, kape, gatas, pinag-isa natin, meron tayong bagong produkto. Ngayon, ang tanong sa mga taong hindi pa nakatikim niyan, ano kaya yung lasa? Okay, so that is what we call as the interpretation. Okay? We will now try to interpret the new meaning. What did we produce or what does this product mean? Ano na ang sinasabi nitong bagong produkto na ito? Okay? So, yan. Now, take note that analysis is the most crucial in the intelligence product. Kasi dito sa analysis na ito, it is here where this raw data will now become an intelligence product. At gaya ng sabi ko sa inyo kanina, it is considered as the heart of the intelligence process. Okay? Ito yung pinaka-atay, ito yung pinaka-puso, ito yung pinaka-balon-balunan ng intelligence product. Okay? Kung baga isang manok yan, baga yung pinaka-masarap ba? Diba? So, it is in the analysis stage that this data will now become a finished product. Kaya nga, kung isasummarize natin yan, raw data or information plus analysis equals intelligence. Okay. Ulitin natin. Raw data plus analysis equals intelligence. Okay? So, yan. Ang production stage natin. Okay? So, kapag sinabi nating analysis, we are trying now to carefully examine the information to determine its true meaning, and we are determining also the essential features. So kung inahanap natin yung essential features, what is the strength and what is the weakness of this data or of this product? So, what we call this, pinag-combine natin yung kape, asukal, at gatas, ano ang naging magandang epekto nito? Okay? So, strength. At ano naman ang side effect? Negative, okay, or weakness. Yan yung essential features. What are the strength and what are the weakness of this new product? Yan yung analysis. Okay? So, The last phase of the intelligence cycle is the dissemination phase. Okay? So, dissemination is the distribution of the product to the client. Okay? So, the result of your analysis should have to be given to the end user. Kaya nga dito sa intelligence principle, meron yung tinatawag natin na timely distribution. Okay? So, intelligence must be timely. In the sense that we should have to provide the end user of the result so that they will make use of it, or so that they can maximize the use of that information. Now, of course, in dissemination, there are also things to consider, such as the manner that we have or we will use to disseminate it or to distribute it. Okay? So, there are things to consider. So, there are basic ways to communicate the result. We have the use of an intelligence report. We might be using an oral briefings, or we might be using electronic means. Ano nga ba itong intelligence report na ito? These are written. Okay? It is in a form of a black and white. So, oral briefings in the sense that you will brief, you will tell it orally. And electronic means with the use of our email, okay, fax machines. Those are means of distributing the result. Okay, so there are different types of product. So we have a descriptive, we have an explanatory, we have a predictive, and we have an estimative intelligence products. So descriptive, from the sense from its term descriptive, we are only describing, okay? So we are only describing what we call the product. So ano yung dinidescribe natin? The situation, we are just describing it. Now, explanatory, we are trying to explain a possible scenario. We are trying to explain the effect. Predictive in the sense that we are foreseeing. Okay? Nakikita natin kung ano yung mangyayari, na pre-predict natin. Estimative in the sense na nakakalculate natin. So, yan ang importance ng analysis. Okay? We can describe a scenario, we can describe an event, we can explain, we can predict, and we can estimate. Okay? So, yan. What is an intelligence product? Kasi ito na yung natin. Now, these are all intelligence product. Okay? These are all intelligence product. Now, what are these ones? Ito na sila. Okay? Intelligence product is an information acquired by an organization which, because of its confidentiality, confidentiality, okay, means, or of the means by which the information was derived, may allow an organization to exploit to its advantage. So, meaning to say, this product, okay, descriptive product, explanatory product, predictive product, or estimative product may be used to the advantage of the end user. Okay? So, that ends our discussion for today, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning. Okay? Sorry for we were not able to discuss it personally. Gawa nga ng nagluluko tayo lahat ng signal. Actually, even during this time na nagre-record ako ng video na ito, wala akong network actually. Wala akong signal. Okay? So, yun. So, See you next meeting. Hopefully yung signal natin maayos para now, if you can still remember, I made a promise magkakaroon tayo ng quiz kaso hindi natin din nabigay. Gawa nga na nitong nagkakaroon tayo lahat ng problema. Kung ako nga dito, meron akong problema sa signal. What more din kaya sa iba? Pare-pareho lang yan. Okay? So, see you next meeting, Thursday. Good morning.